For the longest time, my only understanding of Asian literature was Amy Tan's Joy Luck Club. Now, since then, I've read tons of Asian writers, but never a translation. It wasn't until I came across a blog by Anne Morgan, who writes for A Year Reading the World, wherein she reads a book from the nearly 200 UN-recognized sovereign states, that I was inspired to actually start reading translations on my own. As a second-generation Korean, I have some pretty immature ideas as far as what I look for in Korean literature. I'm still very attached to the exoticism, the food porn, the Eastern mysticism and wisdom. I'm really wanting the culture to come front and center as part of the story. To a certain extent, I'm helped because those same ideas probably are front and center for those books that are chosen to be translated into English. The first book I chose was Please Look After Mom. It was a huge sensation and a bestseller in Korea, selling well over 1 million copies, and was eventually made into a play. And I can see why. It's like 50 Shades of Grey for the Korean mother set. It's not whips and chains and luxurious wealth, but instead plays to the rich martyr fantasy when a mother's disappearance sends her husband and her kids spiraling into guilt. If only they appreciated her while she was here. If only they didn't take her for granted. And now, it's too late. Frankly, it's like it was manufactured in a laboratory to hit the sort of literary G-spot of an entire generation of Korean mothers. Visiting their kids in Seoul, a mother is separated from her husband in a busy subway station and subsequently disappears. The following chapters are told from the perspective of the eldest son, the daughter, the husband, and eventually the mother herself. The daughter is a world-renowned author who recalls the countless sacrifices her mother made so that she could get an education. She recalls with shame that she barely had enough time with her big city life to even remember to call her mom, and wish she had done so more often. The husband, who was unfaithful and distant all her life, suddenly realizes that there is an empty place in his heart now that his wife is gone. The eldest son, a wealthy and successful businessman who was too busy to meet his parents at the subway station and decided instead to take a relaxing sauna, wishes he was a better and more grateful son. Meanwhile, we learn that this simple, illiterate, rural mother was a magician in the kitchen, able to make anything taste delicious, that she donated the money that her children sent home to an orphanage, where they would read the stories that her daughter had written. She had a green thumb, could make anything grow, and was quietly suffering a debilitating disease. Okay, so I know the mother as martyr isn't something unique to Koreans, but it certainly struck a chord. It's the antithesis to that other Asian mom, the tiger mom. Somehow my mom managed to be both, cracking the whip as far as my marks go, and at the same time lamenting the fact that she was inevitably going to die next week, and then I could do whatever it was that I wanted. She was very progressive. Yes, she's still alive, and I see her and my dad at least once a week for lunch. So I follow that up with the book that Anne Morgan chose to represent South Korea. It's The Vegetarian by Han Kang. While she loved its ambition and poetic tone, I thought of it as the Yoko Ono of the two books that I read, sort of discordant and weird, arty. It also reinforced the theme of a nation obsessed with guilt, and where all the men are frankly assholes. Seriously. And The Vegetarian, a normally complacent and compliant, quiet wife, decides one day to forgo meat of all kinds. Everybody suddenly loses their mind. The husband is more obsessed with wondering, will this affect his sort of business prospects, her not eating meat? He, of course, will eventually divorce her. Her father just can't handle the fact that she refuses to eat meat and tries to force feed it down her throat. When she refuses, he backhands her. Her sister's husband, a layabout artist riding on the coattails and the income of his more successful and hardworking wife, decides that he's going to paint her entire body over in flowers, paints himself over with flowers, and then proceeds to have sex with her. When they're discovered, he tries to jump off the balcony and kill himself before he's stopped. Meanwhile, the sister decides she's going to be a tree. Clearly, I need to start watching more Korean soap operas because they are batshit crazy. So I'm taking a break from Korean writing for a little bit right now, but I will return to it. What about you guys? Do you have experience reading your culture? Do you recollect any stories from the old country? Or maybe what are your favorite translations? Let me know in the comments below.